Wow, what a great, great night. I know it's homecoming night around here. I couldn't be more excited to be with you with my daughter, Charlotte, at my side. Give it up for Congressman Bob Latta. He is a great conservative voice in our nation's capital. Congressman Jim Jordan, another great Ohio congressman who's with us here tonight. Mayor Neil McKinnon here in Rossford. I got to tell you, we've been traveling all across the Buckeye State. Strongsville, Amherst, Sandusky, Toledo. And I got a feeling when we win Ohio, we're going to win all the way to the White House. Now, Bob Latta and I have been friends for a long time. And he knows me well enough to know that despite those kind and gracious words, the introduction I prefer is just a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. And I got to tell you, I joined this campaign in a heartbeat because you have nominated a man for president who never quits, who never backs down. He is a fighter. He is a winner. And until very recently, it seemed like he was out there fighting all on his own. But now this movement is coming together. This party is coming together. Ohio's coming together. And we're going to elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States of America. I really appreciate you coming out tonight. I know I'm kind of the B-list Republican celebrity in this case, you know? Right? I'm not exactly the main event, right? And I'm sorry, I really want to apologize. I'm running a few minutes late. I would have gotten here sooner, but I stopped by Tony Packo's for a hot dog, and it's good. But I stopped by Tony Packo's for a hot dog, and Tim Kaine called and interrupted me 5 or 6 times while I was trying to eat that thing. We had a little debate the other night. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. You know, some people think I won that debate. You know, I'll leave that for others to say, but from where I sat, Donald Trump won that debate. Donald Trump's vision to make America great again won that debate. And Donald Trump's vision to revive America to a stronger America at home and abroad is going to win all the way to the White House come November the 8th. You know, people ask me a lot of, you know, I've gotten to know Donald Trump over the last few months. People will say to me, what is it about Donald Trump? How is it that he draws these enormous crowds around the country? How is it that he has spoken into the frustrations and the aspirations of the American people like no one in my lifetime since Ronald Reagan? And you know, I'm from south of Highway 40 over in Indiana, so we speak a little plainly down there. I just tell people Donald Trump gets it. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a genuine article. He's a doer in a game usually reserved for talkers. And when he does his talking, he doesn't go tiptoeing around all those thousands of rules of political correctness that the media puts in the way of men and women that want to make a difference. He tells it like it is, and the American people hear him loud and clear, and they're going to send him all the way to the White House. The funny thing is, the party in power seems just helpless to figure this guy out. And of course, I'm talking about the media, right? I mean, really and truly, it's kind of fun to watch sometimes. I mean, I get something in the mornings, I just like turn on the television with a stick, you know what I mean? I don't know what they're going to be talking about any given day of the week, you know? And invariably they'll say, this time we got him, right? This time we found there's another tweet that come out or something. This time we got another thing, another issue that's come forward. Then they turn on the television the next morning and Donald Trump is still standing stronger than ever before and fighting for the American people. And he is going to fight all the way to the White House. You know, I think part of Donald Trump's appeal is he's never forgotten the men and women who built this country. He comes from a family of builders. To know Donald Trump is to know a man who believes in the boundless potential of the American people, because he's lived that out in his own life, building things with his own hands and knowing the people that do it. He's never forgotten the men and women who work with their hands, who grow our food, who build our roads and bridges and our great buildings, who tend to our sick, who teach our kids. And I'll promise you this, Donald Trump will never forget or fail to support the men and women who serve on the thin blue line of law enforcement at every level in this nation. As the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America, Donald Trump will support our law enforcement community at every level, provide the resources that these brave men and women need and deserve, and Donald Trump will restore law and order to every city and every community and every state in this nation. You know, that's probably why Donald Trump has been endorsed by the largest police officers union in the United States of America, 330,000 strong. The Fraternal Order of Police said Donald Trump should be the next president of the United States. You know, before I move on, we got a lot of law enforcement personnel with us here today. Would you mind just taking a minute, maybe turn around, catch a look at one of these brave men and women? Let's just show them how much we appreciate the job that they do protecting our families each and every day. Thanks, everybody. You know, it really is amazing at the very moment when America is crying out for something new and different. 7 out of 10 Americans think that our nation is headed in the wrong direction, and they're right. The other party has answered with the most predictable of names and a stale agenda that's failed the American people. It's amazing. The other party's actually nominated someone for president who literally personifies the failed status quo in Washington, D.C. So let me just say, you all here in the Buckeye State, we must not rest or relent for the next 32 days until we ensure that Hillary Clinton will never be elected president of the United States of America. Can we do that? Because despite the avalanche of insults coming out of the other campaign, you see that in that debate the other night? That was quite a moment. After my counterpart in the other party laid down all of his memorized lines about this and that and the other, then he said, "You're running an insult-driven campaign." I had to turn to him and say, "Well, now hold on a second." I said, "Your candidate said that half of Donald Trump's supporters, millions of Americans who believe we can have a stronger America at home and abroad, we can end illegal immigration, we can establish law and order, get this economy moving again. We're a basket of deplorables, irredeemable and not America." You know, you cannot lead people you loathe. When Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, we'll have a president who respects all the American people and will fight for all of the American people for a safer and more prosperous future. But despite all of those sidebar things, this campaign really is about big things. People here in Ohio know it. I heard it all day. People know that this campaign and the decision that we face in 32 days is really about security. It's about prosperity. It's about the highest court in the land, and it's about maintaining the highest standards of integrity in the highest office in the land. Let's start with security. Despite traveling millions of miles as our Secretary of State, the world is more dangerous today than the day that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama took over America's foreign policy. Our allies are less secure, our enemies are more emboldened. It's extraordinary to think of it. Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have literally weakened America's place in the world. You need look no further than the wider Middle East to see this strategy of leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia. The rise and rule and reign of ISIS are all a testament to the truth of history that weakness arouses evil. But as you leave here and tell your neighbors and friends, remember this, it was Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State who initiated the disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. Now I'll tell you, when I served with Bob Latta and Jim Jordan in the Congress, we put punishing sanctions on Iran. Iran is the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world. We put punishing sanctions on them, and here was the deal. Those sanctions had never come off until Iran permanently abandoned its ambition to have a nuclear weapon. This administration and the deal Hillary Clinton started negotiated a deal that only delays their ambitions. It doesn't end them. They got $150 billion, and we're still, on the very day that the Iranians released 4 American hostages, this administration, with Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine's support, delivered $400 million in cash in a ransom payment. You know, let me make you a promise. When Donald Trump is president of the United States of America, we won't be paying ransom to terrorist-sponsoring states. They'll be paying a price. They'll be paying a price if they threaten or detain or harm American citizens. It was Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, who failed to negotiate a new status of forces agreement in Iraq. You know, I served in the Congress. I traveled downrange every year for 10 years to visit our soldiers. I saw the sacrifices through the hard years, 2005 and 2006. I saw Hillary Clinton and her ilk in the Congress. People like Harry Reid saying that this war is lost and they just wanted to cut and run from Iraq. But our last president and the American soldier knew different. And they fought and they won and they secured Operation Iraqi Freedom by 2009 at great sacrifice. At great sacrifice. You know, before I move on, I know there's many men and women that have worn the uniform in the near term and in the long term. Since we're all standing, would you just mind, if you wore the uniform of the United States that served this country, would you slide your hand in the air so we can just thank you one more time? Thank you for your service. And lastly, it's important to know, it was Hillary Clinton and her State Department that left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi. And after 4 Americans fell, even though she knew the night of the attack that it was, in her words in an email to her daughter, an Al-Qaeda-style terrorist attack, Hillary Clinton told the families of the fallen at Dover Air Force Base, when their sacred remains returned to this country, that it was caused by a filmmaker in Florida. And when she was challenged on it before a Senate committee, Hillary Clinton actually said words that are hard to repeat. She said, quote, "What difference at this point does it make?" Well, let me say, as the proud father of a United States Marine, anybody who said that, anybody who did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. You don't leave Americans in harm's way. and you don't lie to the families of the fallen. We cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. For the world to be safe, for the American people to be safe, America needs to be strong. And this administration, despite its weak and feckless leadership on the world stage, has hollowed out the American military. You may not know it, but we've got the lowest troop levels since 1940. We have the smallest number of ships in our Navy since 1916. Our Marine Corps is down to 23 battalions when our warfighters believe we should have 36 Marine Corps battalions. And our Air Force, down to 1,100 fighter attack and bombers right now. But last year, our Air Force purchased the least number of airplanes in any year since 1934, and the average age of the aircraft that we have in this country is 27 years old. That's older than most of the men and women flying them. Men and women, for America to be safe, we must restore the arsenal of democracy. We will have peace through strength, and Donald Trump will lead with American strength. We will rebuild our military. We will provide our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines with the resources and the training that they need to do their mission and come home safe. And we will provide the will and the direction to hunt down ISIS at its source and destroy it, and any terrorist organization that threatens our people. Donald Trump will provide leadership as our commander-in-chief. It'll change the direction and enhance the security of America. That's probably why 160 former admirals and generals and 17 Medal of Honor winners have endorsed Donald Trump as the next commander-in-chief of the armed forces of this nation. So it's about security, but it's also about this economy. We're in the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression. Despite all the happy talk by the other side, we have the lowest labor participation rate since the 1970s, and millions more Americans are living in poverty. Now, the other side likes to do a lot of happy talk. We're making a lot of progress, but, you know, as the saying goes, facts are stubborn things. Some facts came out today. Unemployment went back up nationally, and the most powerful economy in the world only created 156,000 new jobs last month. Hillary Clinton's plan? More of the same. When you go tell your neighbors and friends, don't tell them that she's going to continue the same policies of this administration. She's going to give us more of the failed policies of this administration. Hillary Clinton and her running mate want to raise taxes by $1 trillion, increase spending by $2 trillion, expand more regulation, expand Obamacare, expand the war on coal, and continue to advance the kind of trade deals that put the American worker in the back seat. You know, the simple fact of the matter is, they tell us this economy is the best we can do. But I think we know here in Ohio, it's not the best we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to put common sense, conservative principles into practice, and we're going to get this economy working for people all across Ohio and all across America. Donald Trump's got a plan. Donald Trump's got a plan. It looks a whole lot like what Ronald Reagan did in the 1980s. Frankly, it looks a whole lot like what John F. Kennedy did in the 1960s. And that is, we're going to start by letting the American people keep more of what they earn. We're going to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. We're going to get rid of death taxes once and for all, and we're going to lower business taxes so companies in Ohio can employ people in Ohio instead of shipping jobs overseas. And Donald Trump and I know that regulation is another form of taxation. So on day one of the Trump-Pence administration, Donald Trump is going to sign a moratorium on any new federal red tape, and he's going to repeal every single executive order that Barack Obama signed that's killing jobs and opportunities in this economy. And the most failed regulation and government program in my lifetime is going to go by the boards as well. Did you hear what Hillary Clinton's husband had to say about Obamacare? I mean, wow. Wow. He said it's the craziest thing in the world. He said premiums have gone up, benefits have gone down. You know, even with the Clintons, sometimes truth happens. So I'm going to tell you, right after we get done cutting taxes and repealing regulations, we're going to repeal Obamacare, lock, stock, and barrel. And we're going to work with these great congressmen to do it. And when it comes to energy, I'll tell you what, we in the Hoosier State know what you all know here in Ohio. That one of the God-given blessings of this nation is our vast natural resources. So on day one of the Trump-Pence administration, we're going to end the war on coal once and for all. We're going to develop all the natural resources of our land, and we're going to fuel an American comeback with American energy. And lastly, when Donald Trump becomes negotiator in chief. You know where I'm going with this? Yeah, negotiator in chief. Kids, it's not in the Constitution. Yet. But with the man who did the art of the deal, and the art of the comeback is negotiating trade deals for America, the American worker is going to win again. We're going to have trade deals that work for the American economy. We're going to hold our trading partners accountable for the commitments that they make to the American people, and we're going to have deals that support American jobs and American growth. And lastly, let me say, you know, it's security, it's prosperity, but it's also about recognizing that with this administration, it seems like there's no aspect of our lives too small for them to want to plan. And there's no provision of the Constitution too large for them to ignore. I mean, we're about to elect a president for a 4-year term, but we need to remember that the next president will likely set the course and direction of the Supreme Court of the United States for the next 40 years. It's not just filling one vacancy from the untimely passing of the late and great Justice Antonin Scalia. There may be 2 and up to 3 appointments to the Supreme Court just in the next 4 years. So if you care about the Constitution, if you care about the sanctity of life, if you care about all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Bill of Rights, like the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, for the sake of our Constitution, for the sake of upholding the strong constitutional traditions of this nation, we must decide here and now that the next president making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States will be President Donald Trump. That important. So it's about security, it's about prosperity, and it's about the highest court in the land. But it's also about maintaining the highest level of integrity in the highest office in the land. You know, it really is amazing since I joined this campaign. Since I joined this campaign, it's just about been 2-on-1 with the media doing half of Hillary Clinton's work for her every day. Did you ever notice that? And it seems like the more information comes out, there's WikiLeaks released a whole new batch of emails today for your weekend enjoyment. right? But I mean, it really is incomprehensible and deeply troubling that while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State of the United States of America in charge of all of our foreign policy, she had a private foundation taking foreign government contributions and contributions from wealthy foreigners. And at the same time, we found out, frankly, because the New York Times of all newspapers reported that she had a private server and some good investigative work. They managed to recover thousands of emails that now demonstrate a direct connection between major contributors to their private foundation and people that got on her calendar when she was Secretary of State. It was discovered that she had a private server. We learned that in the weeks that would follow that, when Congress began to make inquiries, she actually hired a firm to use high technology and have her staff use hammers to destroy nearly 18,000 emails. You know, I'm old enough to remember a president who erased 18 and a half minutes of audio tape, and they ran him out of Washington, D.C. And here we have Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton deleted nearly 18,000 emails that would give information about the relationship between those foreign donors to her foundation and her activity as our Secretary of State. In the time we have remaining, I mean, I don't want you to miss the homecoming football game or anything, so I'll just leave it there. So I'm going to say to you, for the sake of our security, for the sake of our prosperity, for the sake of the Supreme Court, but maybe most especially, to ensure that we have the highest level of integrity in the highest office in the land, we must ensure that Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. When he becomes president, his only special interest will be you, the American people, and he will fight for you and for this nation every day. Well, I got to get back to Indiana. I'm going to catch a plane and go catch up with Mrs. Pence. I'm traveling, as Bob told you, with my wonderful daughter, Charlotte. She's filling in. I got the B team tonight, but she's a great kid, just graduated college, and she has a job. And you know, as you leave here today, I hope you'll go tell somebody. I really do. I mean, you know, the reason why it just seems like, you know, the media is just all on one side of this deal. But the reason why we see Donald Trump winning hearts and minds every day is because I really believe the American people are talking to each other. All right? I mean, we're turning down the sound and we're picking up the phone, calling neighbors and friends across a backyard fence. We're stopping at places of worship and work. And so I want you to leave here today. If you've heard something that just reminded you of what the real issues are in this campaign, I want you to go tell somebody. And tell them we can make America great again. We can change the direction of America again. But it's going to take electing Donald Trump as the next president of the United States. And I want you to go tell somebody. Go tell somebody. Will you do it? And when you tell them, I want you to tell them this. I mean, obviously, the things I just laid out, the big issues, I want you to tell them about the choice in this election. It's never been more dramatic than any one in my life. You know, sometimes over in Indiana, sometimes elections in my lifetime have been, oh, you elect this one person and things will get this much better. You elect the other person, it'll only be about that much worse, right? Sometimes there's not a dime's worth of difference between your choices, it seems like. This isn't one of those times. I mean, this is a moment, men and women, I truly do believe, where we as Americans are either going to continue to go down the hill we've been on the last 7.5 years to a weaker America on the world stage, to a weaker American economy, walking away from the highest traditions in our Constitution and the highest standards in public life, or whether we're going to stop, plant our feet, and march back up the hill to a stronger America at home and abroad, more jobs, more opportunities, respecting our constitutional principles and our highest ideals. That's what this choice is. And I know the choice the American people are going to make. I really believe it. I'm feeling it everywhere I go. Donald Trump reminds me all the time. He says, every time we pull up to one of these massive crowds that come out for him, or the crowds that come out for me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. He'll look at me in the car before we get out and he'll say, remember, Mike, this isn't about me, it's not about you. He says, this is a movement. And the American people are going to make America great again. Yeah. But when you go out, last thing, really and truly, last thing for real, I want to tell you, I hope you go tell your neighbors and friends that choice I just described, that it's that dramatic. Because if you tell people, you know, I honestly believe every cable television show in the world, every front page of every newspaper, every radio show, every website, doesn't matter a hill of beans to when you walk up to somebody who knows you, who trusts you, who knows your heart and your mind, and you tell them, here's how it's got to be. So you got to go tell somebody. And when you tell them the things I mentioned, tell them one more thing. And that is that in these divided times in our country, in these contentious times in America, that on this team, you have two people who will always believe that there is more that unites us in these United States of America than will ever divide us. Donald Trump and I believe that. And it has a lot to do with faith. Faith in the American dream. You know, Donald Trump and I, when we met this summer, we spent a little time together, and I mean, we're a little different. Right? I mean, he's bigger than life, you know, charismatic, very interesting. And, you know, then there's me. But when we started talking, I started learning about his family, learning about my family, because this is a man who loves this country, who loves his family. And I found out that, you know, his grandfather immigrated to this country, came through Ellis Island. My grandfather immigrated to this country from Ireland. His father was a self-made man, and he and his mom built everything that matters, a family and a business and a good name. And my father was the same. He built a little gas station business in a small town in Indiana. Didn't have two nickels to rub together when they started out. But they built a family, they built a success. Donald Trump and I were both raised to believe that to whom much is given, much will be required. So for him, that meant the kid from Queens went to Manhattan Island, right? And started building the big buildings. For me, it was a calling into public service, to live out a dream, to represent my hometown in Washington, D.C., and eventually actually to leave my state as governor. I mean, I like to tell people, I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean, other than a whole lot of zeros, Donald Trump and I have a lot in common. And I mean a lot of zeros. And it's a belief in the American dream. And it's not a cliche for us, we lived it. We saw it. We grew up at the footstool of it. And so when you leave here today and you talk to your neighbors and friends, and that slogan that you see on those hats and on those signs, I hope you tell them when they read, "Make America Great Again," that means they have a chance to elect a president and a vice president who will fight every day to revive the American dream for every American, regardless of race or creed or color or gender or area code or income. We're going to bring the American dream back to life. It's about faith in the American dream, but it's also about that other kind of faith. It's always been the foundation of American greatness. This shining city on a hill. This land of unimaginable prosperity and strength. is now, and shall ever be, a land that draws our strength from the fact that we are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we have a choice to make, Ohio, and Ohio is going to loom large. You people always play a big role in the national life. Everything is big about Ohio. And I'm just going to tell you, the next 32 days is another time for choosing. So let me lay it out for you one more time. Go tell your neighbors and friends. Here's what you tell them. Number one, if you want a president who will protect this nation, rebuild our military, restore the arsenal of democracy, renew our allies, and hunt down and destroy ISIS and any terrorist organization that threatens our people. If you want a president who will restore law and order to every city and every community in this nation and stand by law enforcement as they put their lives on the line for ours. And you tell them, if you want a president who will cut taxes, grow the economy, squeeze every nickel out of that bloated federal bureaucracy, and repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel. And if you want a president who will secure our borders, build a wall, enforce the laws of this nation for the citizens of this nation, and end illegal immigration once and for all. And if you want a president who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., anybody doubt that? He will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., and he will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. Then I want you to tell your neighbors, here's the deal. You want all of that? You got one choice. And I just came here to this wonderful city in the great state of Ohio, here in Rossford. Go Bulldogs. Nice. I came here with all you Bulldogs just to tell you one thing. Be Bulldogs in the next 32 days. But I promise you what, you want all of that? That man is ready. This team is ready. This movement is ready. If you go make sure that Ohio is ready, we will elect Donald Trump as the 45th president of the United States of America, and we will make America great again. Let's go get it done, Ohio. Let's go, Bulldogs. Thank you.